If I could go back 7 years when I first started creating content, there are 6 lessons I tell myself to become a better content creator. As content creators, we're often so focused on giving value. And for the longest time, I was also convinced that that would be the key to grow my platform. And so I defaulted to giving value in the form of knowledge. And as you may or may not know, my first business was all about natural soap making and zero waste living. And so what my knowledge looked like was sharing recipes, tutorials. And although that did attract an audience, nothing really major changed until I implemented one key component that I hadn't really realized was completely missing from my content. And that key component is storytelling. And let me explain what I mean by telling you the story of that one video that made me go viral on TikTok. So it was the start of a pandemic. I had been posting on TikTok for just a few weeks and I was seeing no traction at all. I was trying to follow all of these silly trends and nothing was really working until one day I decided to, go back to what I did best, what my element was, and that was filming recipe tutorials. And one of my most popular recipes was a natural deodorant recipe. It was simple to make and also very effective. And so people in my existing audience I had on Instagram raved about it. And when I talked about it, I came up with this tagline, which was, "I don't buy deodorant anymore because I make my own," which really sounds like a cleverly strategized hook, but actually it was simply, the reality of my life. I wasn't buying deodorant anymore because I was making my own. And so when I decided to post that recipe on TikTok, my opening hook for that video was, "I don't buy deodorant anymore because I make my own." And after I posted that video, it started to go viral and took off within just a span of 2 weeks. And I think within a month or two, I amassed 250,000 followers. So what does this tell us? People love to immerse themselves in stories that they find relatable or maybe just even odd and intriguing. And so what made that video go viral and really engage with people wasn't the actual recipe, but the fact that I didn't buy deodorant anymore because I made my own. It was the story. And in fact, so many people in the comments told me that they tried the deodorant recipe and loved it. Just like, I got so much hate from people saying, "Oh, you must smell bad," and stuff like that. Regardless, they were all enchanted by this weird story. So the lesson here is to make storytelling the foundation of your content strategy. And I know we're often afraid to tell stories. We are worried that they might sound boring, or we worry that they might make us look ridiculous even. But let me tell you, the more we dare to lean into our boring lives as a source of inspiration, the better we can share stories that are more inspiring and relatable to our audience. There's so much to say about storytelling, and I'm actually finalizing the script for an upcoming video all about it. So make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that. Okay, moving on to the next lesson. So we all know personal branding is so important to build trust and recognition with our audience. And in the context of branding, we often discuss things like our story, our values and visual elements, as well as the actions that make up who we are and who people perceive us to be. And these are definitely all incredibly important elements to consider, but something I don't really see many people talk about is what it takes on an emotional level to build a personal brand that's truly reflective of who we are and that is really able to connect with our audience. And to get to that emotional level, it's necessary to tap into a level of self-awareness about ourselves. So what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is literally understanding yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and how they affect you and others. And so when you deeply understand yourself, your values, strengths, and weaknesses, you can communicate more authentically with your audience. And that's the key to building a strong personal brand. This authenticity naturally draws people to you because they can sense that you're genuine. But, there's even more power to it because self-awareness is also a shield that helps you stay true to who you are. And if there's anything I've experienced in the past nearly 7 years of content creation, is how along the road there will be so many temptations and shiny objects everywhere. It can be so easy to be distracted by what other people are doing, the latest strategy they're promoting, the newest offer they're developing, the ideas they're sharing. And so having self-awareness of yourself and having crystal clear in your mind why you started and where you're going is going to be critical to sustain your brand in the long run. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by this by using myself as a case study. So at some point in 2023, I realized that my first business, Bottega Zero Waste, the business about soap making and zero waste living, was no longer aligned with the person I was becoming. It started out because of my passion for soap making, but over time, my personal values and my priorities shifted. I felt very disconnected from this mission that I had set for myself, and continuing on that path felt like I was holding on to a version of myself that no longer existed. And so self-awareness really helped me recognize that it was finally time to let go, even though it wasn't an easy decision. And so my decision was quite radical. I completely shifted from soap making to marketing, and that's a completely different niche. But here's the thing, even if you stay in the same niche, your priorities will naturally change as your brand grows and evolves. And having self-awareness will allow you to recognize these shifts and adapt your strategies or focus without losing sight of your core identity. So how do we practice self-awareness? Truly, you only need one simple practice, and that is reflecting. And what that means is taking time to think deeply and writing about your thoughts, feelings, and actions. And there are many scenarios where you might want to do that. And this can be as simple as doing weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly reflections. So thinking and writing about how things really went, how did I feel? What am I proud of? And what could I have done better? And another tool that can help you practice reflections is building in public. Building in public is a way to open with your audience about every step of your journey, from changes, challenges happening with your brand and business to, new offers you're working on. And in order to be open and transparent with others, you must allow yourself to be vulnerable and really let your authenticity shine through. And so let me give you an example. Well, just recently I shared an email with my audience about some changes happening in my business, and I chose to be very vulnerable with it. I opened up about currently being 6 months pregnant. Now this is forcing me to rethink my content strategy, and the fact that I already know and accept that I won't be able to handle the workload I'm handling at the moment, hence the change in strategy. And so when you let yourself be vulnerable, not only you again unlock that self-awareness necessary to sustain your growth, but you also open a way for people to engage and feel more connected to you as a person before they connect with the brand. Okay, this next lesson is something that falls more on the personal side of things, but that it can have a dramatic impact on your business. The time when I was at my lowest from a content standpoint was during my sabbatical. And I took this sabbatical, this year away from my business in 2023. And that was about a year after my first baby was born. And the thing is, I was really enjoying my maternity leave. I was looking after my baby, and that took a lot of attention and energy, but at the same time my mind was also not in a very good place. They say maternity changes you completely, that it rewires your brain, and it really does. So when it was time to jump back into working part-time on my business, I felt like I completely lacked the mental clarity to make any business decision. And with that, I remained stagnant and stuck in a limbo for one entire year. And keep in mind, this was during that time when I wanted to pivot to a different niche. And so when I finally decided it was time for a change, the first thing I did was to sign up with a personal trainer at the gym. And I started going regularly 3 to 4 times a week. And even when I was out of town, I made sure I ran, I played sports like paddle, I did at home HIIT workouts. In short, my body was always moving. And let me tell you, those months when I was always moving, my mind was sharper and clearer than it ever was. And this is actually backed up by science. Moving your body helps clear your mind, it reduces stress and releases feel-good chemicals like dopamine. And then around the end of August 2024, I fell pregnant with my second baby, and the most terrible nausea hit. And that was all day nausea. There was no escaping from it for 3 months straight. Not to mention the absolute exhaustions. Like I would literally fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon, and then I was so ready to go to bed at 9 p.m. again. And so basically I had to stop any sort of exercise and just focus on surviving. And when the nausea finally started fading away, I kind of had lost my rhythm. And so another month and a half went by without any sort of physical activity. And once again, I started feeling completely disconnected when I was working on my content. I felt sleepy, very sluggish, and also my confidence levels went down alongside my productivity. And so at the beginning of this year, I committed to moving my body again, even during my pregnancy. I'm doing swimming, doing prenatal yoga, not particularly intense exercises, but I've started a couple of weeks ago and I can already feel such a massive shift in terms of focus and quality of ideas. And so just to give you some context, if previously it would take me like 3 to even 4 full working days to script a single YouTube videos, now I can very easily do it in 1 day or even less. And so the lesson here is as simple as, in order to keep your mind awake, you must keep your body moving, whatever that means for you and your circumstances and your preferences. Incorporating some sort of weekly movement into your life, at least like 3 times a week, will make a difference to your productivity, the clarity and the quality of your ideas. The next lesson is something I refer to the system trap. So we all know how systems are essential for scaling a business. They streamline processes, they save time, and they ensure consistency as you grow. And I'm sure we've all downloaded at least one Notion template that promises you to improve your productivity and your content output. And it all sounds great until you find yourself fiddling with, the colors of your page and the cover of your Notion banner more than you do any actual work. Now, this probably doesn't come as a surprise, but it's so important to address because systematic bottlenecks can present themselves in so many other unexpected areas other than, the Notion template. And so here's the thing about systems. They work when they're kept lean and simple. Let me give you another example. I'm a big fan of documenting ideas on the go. And so for the past 2 years, I've actually implemented capturing ideas on the go as the primary source of all of my content. And I actually have some specific videos about this method, which I'll leave down below if you're interested. But in short, this is what I used to do. Anytime I would capture a new idea, a new thought, I'd collect it into a database. And can you guess what happened? After a few months of following this process, I had hundreds of unprocessed ideas sitting in that database. And although this might sound like a good deal, like of course you're never going to run out of content ideas, it's actually not that great, because once an idea was captured in that database, it was literally left there to collect dust. And the reason why I didn't take the time to go through the database to create content is that most of those ideas had actually lost their momentum. And so this is a great example of a system that is actually doing more harm than good. So here's the solution. When you capture your ideas on the fly, don't store them into a database of thoughts you'll likely just forget about. Instead, create a WhatsApp chat with yourself and send yourself a voice message or a text with your idea. Then when you're back at your desk, listen to the last few messages or read the last few messages you've sent yourself and process those ideas straight away. And so this way, your WhatsApp chat will serve as a temporary inbox that you're going to take action on. What I normally do is I take these ideas and then insert them into a project or into my content calendar so that I know for a fact that they will get processed into actual content. And if I don't feel good about them anymore, I'll just discard them and I'll just throw them away instead of leaving them in some sort of database to collect dust. And by doing this, I've noticed how my work output, my content consistency has dramatically improved. So let me know if you do something similar or if you're going to try this method. Okay, moving on to the next lesson. As a content creator, I'm sure you've experienced that feeling of being constantly switched on, like constantly thinking about the next piece of content to create. And I know that feeling is inevitable. However, it's actually very healthy to practice a good dose of detachment when you're not working. And there may be times in your life when it becomes absolutely necessary to unplug and focus on a different activity. And I've experienced this to the fullest extent since becoming a mom, but I think even if you don't have children, my experience can relate to you even in other relationship contexts, like having a spouse or, your relationship with your friends. So here's an example to put this into context. During my first year as a mom, I was still running my business. I wasn't doing any launches or any heavy marketing stuff, but I had my online courses. I had existing students and new signups. And as a stay-at-home mom, my mind was very often split between my son and my work. And so whenever I was with my son, and even when he started going to nursery part-time, but sometimes perhaps he was ill and had to stay home, I just felt resentful. I felt resentful for losing time that I was taking away from my work. And at the same time, when I was working, I felt sad and guilty that I wasn't spending more time with my son. And so blurring the lines between work and personal life can really lead to frustration. And that constant feeling of having your mind in two places at the same time can cause so much anxiety and can ruin precious relationships with the people you love the most. And so here's a very important lesson. The real key to achieving true work-life balance is compartmentalization. And all compartmentalization really means is creating clear boundaries between work and personal time so that you can fully focus and recharge in both areas without one bleeding into the other. And so how does it look like in practice? It can be as simple as leaving your phone in a separate room if you're playing with your child and giving him or her your undivided attention, or making room for intentional quality time to spend with your friends or your better health, just like making intentional time for yourself. So for example, if you're going to the gym, instead of tuning into your favorite marketing podcast, which I know can be so tempting because as business owners, we really like to be efficient, you can just focus on listening to your favorite music and to your body. So trust me, this will make a world of difference, and you'll soon realize what impact this will have on your journey as a content creator. Okay, so this last lesson is probably the most relevant to the actual craft of creating content online. So too often I see content creators relying on just their own intuition, or relying on trends, or just what feels exciting in that moment. And this is something I've also experienced on my skin. You have no idea how many times in the past I've created content out of just pure intuition. And then I wondered why that piece of content didn't really land, didn't really resonate with my audience, or just had zero engagement. And to prevent this from happening, I think you should always make sure that whatever you're sharing always ties back to your message. Now, if you don't do that, your content will feel scattered and confusing to your audience and to yourself. And sure, there will always be pieces of content that we least expect to drive attention that will go viral, like my viral deodorant TikTok video. But I think, first of all, that's usually an exception. And also it's a shame to operate completely in the darkness of what has the most potential to resonate and to help you grow. And so the good news is that there is a way to do that. So I want you to imagine a compass. And that compass is there to help you navigate your content creation journey whenever you feel lost on what to create, or perhaps you're short on time, or you're having second thoughts about your content. The compass that will help you stay consistent and grow with your content is something I call a messaging guide. So a messaging guide is simply a document that outlines some very, very key elements that you really want to have nailed down to a T. And these are your mission, your message, your brand positioning, your content strategy, and your offers. And that's where your content should stem from, and what will make your personal brand recognizable, relatable, and memorable. Having crystal clear messaging guidelines also simplifies content creation so much, because these guidelines will act as a filter for your ideas, your stories, and your lessons. That filter will ensure that everything that you share aligns with your core message and your brand, and this will make your content more focused and you more consistent and more impactful. Now, messaging is such an interesting and also layered topic that deserves an entire different video. So I will definitely make a video dedicated to it, and it's coming up soon. But also, if this resonates, I invite you to join my email list, because I'm going to be creating a guide to help you craft a standout, bold message that attracts, engages, and grows your dream audience. And as a subscriber, you'll be the first to get it for free. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure not to miss my next video, which will all be about how to master storytelling, even if you think your life is boring, which, let me tell you, is definitely not. I will see you there.